All right, so we'll be looking at nested while loop. So basically, when you put a loop inside a while loop, it becomes a nested while loop. Now, the loop inside could be a for loop or a while loop, but as long as the outer loop is the while loop, that is a nested while loop. So let's look at the mechanism or the flow chart of this nested while loop. So here I'm using two while loop. Now I have the outer loop and the inner loop. So how does this work? First of all, when you run the code, it's going to check the conditions of the outer loop. Now, when the condition is correct or true, rather, it's going to move down to the inner loop. Now, it's going to check the conditions of this inner loop. When the condition is true, it will print the inner loop statement. And then it will go back again to the inner loop to check the condition. Now, if the condition is true again, it's going to come back to print the inner loop statement. Now, it keeps going back to check the inner loop condition and then printing the inner loop statement until it gets to a point where the inner loop condition is no longer true. So when it is false, it's going to move down to print the outer loop statement. Now, after printing the outer loop statement, it will go back to the outer loop and check the outer loop conditions. Now, if the outer loop condition is true, it will go back to the inner loop to check the inner loop again. Now, let's assume that the inner loop, it has exhausted the inner loop conditions. That means when it goes back to the inner loop is false. After that, it will go down to print the outer loop statement. Now, after printing the outer loop statement, it goes back again to check the condition of the outer loop. And again, after that, if it is true, it will come down to the inner loop, check. Let's assume the inner loop statement, the inner loop condition is false. It will go out to print the outer loop statement. And then again, it goes back again to the outer loop. It will keep taking that circle until the outer loop condition is false. Now, when the condition is false, the entire code will stop. So that's basically how the nested while loop works. If the outer loop condition is true, it goes down to the inner loop and then it keeps printing the inner loop until the condition for the inner loop is false, and then it goes back again to the outer loop, and then it keeps taking that circle until the outer loop conditions, they are false, and then